Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question would be for Mr. Vander Wal, and I'm going to call you Scott because it seems weird to call you Mr. Vander Wal when I know you so well. But here's what's frustrating for me is because I look at the reason that this is a crisis right now is because we've gone through 4 or 5 years of really low commodity prices. And if we had perfect trade agreements and our ag products were able to get into every market across the globe and we were treated fairly, we probably wouldn't have had as low of markets the last 4 or 5 years. Is that correct? I mean, the President Trump correctly identified that we needed to fight for better trade agreements. Would you agree with that?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Noem, yes, I would agree with that. I think we've kind of been beat out historically in some of these trade agreements, and admittedly, there are higher tariffs on our products going the other way than they are coming this way.
Exactly. I agree wholeheartedly, and that's why this coming at this time creates such a crisis, is because we've been living with unfair trade agreements. We've been paying the price, and our farmers and ranchers have been dealing with that when previous administrations did not fight for the American farmer. This president's fighting for him, and China knew directly where we were the most vulnerable. They came after our farmers and ranchers. So it gets me upset when I talk about people indicating that it's the president not defending our farmers and ranchers because he was out there fighting for better trade agreements and China came after us. Now our job is to tell the story about why we need a safety net. If we're going to win for better trade agreements, then we need the help of the administration, the help of USDA, the help of Congress to make sure that our farmers and ranchers in this country are able to continue to provide the food supply for this country and for the world and do what they do best. And that's the message that I have a tough time delivering up here sometime. I've spent my whole life in agriculture, but it is very difficult for anybody who hasn't. They don't understand how highly leveraged the industry is. So when you get in a state like South Dakota and you're borrowing money to buy land, then you're borrowing money to buy machinery, and then you go back to the bank and you borrow money to operate, to put seed, fertilizer, chemical in the ground and hope there's something to harvest that fall. That's a highly leveraged industry. And the impact that this situation could have, not just on those operations that have been in families for generations, but the impact it has on those communities and those counties and those states, that's something that I think is very difficult for people on Capitol Hill to really grasp how important it is that we do something and we do it quickly.
Will the general
Is there something?
lady yield?
No, I won't yield right now because I want Mr. Vander Wal to talk about the reality of the situation on the ground in South Dakota and how tenuous this financial situation is.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Noem. That's a great question, and it really impacts our state. You know, we've got decreasing population in our rural areas already, and if we lose any more population in the state, in these rural areas, not only does it take the young farmers and ranchers that leave, or the, like I mentioned, the retiring or almost retiring people like my age and a little older, it also takes out the people that supply those farmers and ranchers, the feed store, the fertilizer dealer, all the people that supply the things that we need to raise the products that we do. So yes, it has a tremendously long tail, and it's not only those feed and seed suppliers, it's the hardware stores, it's the food stores that are in these small towns.
And everybody in this country relies on a safe and an affordable food supply. It doesn't matter if you live in New York, California, you care that when you go to the grocery store that you can afford to buy that loaf of bread, that carton of eggs to feed your family. And that's what is incredibly important about these rural areas continuing to grow our food. That's the message I've carried out here on Capitol Hill, is that we can't afford to let another country grow our food for us, because if they provide our food for us, then they control us. And so it's incredibly important that not only do we fight and continue to fight for better trade agreements and more market access, but we get through this situation too that allows us to be victorious. I appreciate you being here. I know you guys are away from your operations, away from your families, to be here and advocate for good policy and good trade. And it means the world to us, and it means the world to our country. So thank you for what you do. God bless you.
Thank you.